Hello Turtles! Welcome to Sarah Cat and Monkey Bird's Game Development Arena. This week momentum has picked up a lot since last week, and progress has been made in the physics of the drivetrain simulation. I started Saturday morning by practicing some art skills and drawing Sarah Cat and Monkey Bird, and then later myself. I got a little discouraged when my art was starting to look like a 5-year-old, but I definitely need a lot more patience in order to improve my art by practicing. Work then commenced on the engine for the race car. When the player presses the throttle, a torque based off the torque curve of a Mazda Miata is applied, and the engine inertia resists that torque before it starts spinning. The engine also has a drag force, so the faster it's spinning, the more drag it will have, and it will slow itself back down if the throttle is not being applied. After that basic engine was done, I needed to start working on a clutch. The flywheel, pressure plate, and clutch assembly are all part of the engine's inertia. The clutch disc and some pieces of the transmission gears are all part of the clutch inertia, and the reason for that is because they're always rotating when the clutch is rotating, and the other components are always rotating when the engine's rotating. So they're included at those different levels. When the engine is spinning at a different revolution than the clutch, and the clutch disc is squeezed between the pressure plate and flywheel, it will then apply a friction force to get the clutch spinning as well. Once the clutch and flywheel match, there is a maximum static friction force that is applied, so the clutch could technically start slipping if the engine produced more than this amount of force. However, it's not likely the engine's ever going to do that unless I power it up. In the simulation, I used steel on steel for the friction material of the clutch plate, but it could be something different. In the current simulation, the revolutions are always slipping, and I believe this is because when I apply a torque to the engine, I'm only accounting for the inertia of the engine. I'm not including the inertia of the clutch and other downstream parts if they are engaged. And I believe that would solve this problem. I've already started working on some refactoring of this code to solve this. Now that we got the engine spinning, the tachometer was just not feeling very appropriate. So I started adding engine audio. This would allow things to be less silent, and it has the added bonus of actually hearing the inertia. So when you let off the throttle, you can hear that it slows down, and if I release the clutch, you can actually hear the transmission parts affect the engine speed as well, which is quite useful in debugging. Initially, I went to opengameart.org and found a sound effect of a motorcycle idling provided by DK Lawn. I modified the pitch of this audio based on the RPM of the engine, and it worked reasonably well, but as you can hear, not completely satisfying. After talking with Tyne on Ludendare IRC, he suggested that this is not quite how an engine sound works. Changing the pitch will make it sound like a smaller engine. So instead, he pointed me to a different resource from sonori.org, links in the description, which has several sound effects of a car idling at different RPMs. I implemented this to play all of the sound effects at the same time and just set the volumes to 0, except for the two closest to the RPM currently at, and kind of scale the volume of each so that they add up to 1. This actually sounds reasonably well, but there's definitely still room for improvement. Still remaining is giving the transmission, final differential, and wheel bodies their inertia and forces. The current simulation is a race car standing on jack stand, so the wheels do not touch the ground. However, I would like to add braking forces to the wheels so that it would slow them down as well as the other components. That was a lot of progress for this week. Tomorrow is the 4th of July and I have work off, so I'll be live streaming my developments for most of the day on Twitch. If you find these projects interesting, make sure to subscribe for next week and future updates, as well as push that thumbs up button to show your support. Until next time, have a good one.